Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Performance E Streaming. We're slightly late tonight, and we apologise to everybody for that. A little bit of technical issue in the background, but we are here at round 32 of 36. Yes, it is the Charlotte Roval, the final road course of the playoff season for 2023. And, a lot to play for tonight. A lot of people's last chance to really get themselves into the next stage of the playoffs as well. I'm as ever Mr. Carl Wilkinson with you. Joining me up here in the booth, I have Mark Johansson. Mark, how you going, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Back at one of those funny tracks where you got to turn right, but it's going to be interesting to see who gets through tonight's race and survives into the next stage of the playoffs.
Absolutely, lots to look at here, and also we're joined by Mr. Matt Hunter doing all the hard work in the background on the cams. How you going, Matt?
Yeah, going good, thank you, Cal.
Good. Yep, as you said, Mark, it's one of those weird tracks that has, left and right-hand corners and lots of them in between, which really throws some of the drivers for a loop. But we're getting ready to grid up here, so we will wait for the cars to get up ready on their starting positions and quickly run through the starting order for tonight's race here at Charlotte Roval. So taking pole position, unsurprising, I am sure to everybody, it's Mr. Andrew Dyson with Neil Pearson on his outside DPR front row lockout. It's Christopher Ireland on row number 2 behind his teammates, with Ruben Phelps breaking up the DPR party on row number 2. Row number 3 sees SRM locking it out with Maddie Ray and Lachlan Urquio. Row 4 is Dave Douglas and returning Michael Cracknell, who we haven't seen for a bit of time. Nice to see him back out on the track on the road courses. Row number 5 is Joe Schultz and JCW, Joshua Carroll Walden. On row number 6 is Luke Crum with Norman Clark. And Brenton Henderson with Christopher Tomlin round out our grid tonight on row number 7. 14 cars here tonight, getting ready for tonight's race. So cars are starting to pull away here and do their formation lap. So it will be a fairly lengthy little formation here as they go around, get their cars up to temperature, get everything in order. So while they're doing that, we'll quickly run through the playoff competitors, and those are at a little bit of risk at the moment. And currently in that group, it's Lachlan Urquio down at the bottom of that group. 2 points behind Norman Clark in 7th. Norman Clark is just 2 points behind Jai Schultz in 6th, and then 3 points behind him. 3 points in front of him is Dave Douglas in 5th position. A little bit more of a jump up to Maddie Ray, up 6 points over Dave Douglas, and Ruben Phelps up there in 3rd position. And you've got to say, Phelps and Raymond are probably safe in this one. The ones we've got to look out for is Douglas, Schultz, Clark, and Urquio. They're going to be needing a good finish here tonight to secure themselves into the next session of the playoffs. Of course, Daiso and Pearson are locked in tonight. This is just going to be a race where they can let their hair down and just go for it. And well, it could be an opportunity for somebody else to sneak through if they have an accident, but you've got to say it's going to be a tricky one to beat, Mark.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Those DPR cars are definitely on song when it comes to the road courses, and it's going to be hard for Norman, starting way back down the back. But he's got good company down there with Joy, so they both need to have a good night tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Norman Clark did show some good speed last night in the Xfinity car here, so he's hoping for a repeat performance of that tonight. And he's one of those drivers that will come a little bit stronger later in the race, of course. They should be going probably about 25-30 laps till they need to start looking at fuel. Tyres probably not going to be much of a muchness, as we've seen with this new generation of Cup car. The tyres don't fall off very much, so they'll probably keep on the same set, but need to pop in just for a little bit of fuel to get them to the finish of the race. Of course, we might see some people pulling in the lane early to get a few tweaks of the setup done. Of course, we do run a fixed open setup for the series. They all start on the same setup. They can come down pit lane, do a little tweak, and then come back out for the race, and they can change tyre pressures and the spring rate. So not much you can change, but it could help out a little in the long run. We're coming up to the start now for this race number 32 of the season as DPR locking out the front row. Watch out for turn 1 as we're going to be going green here at the Charlotte Roval for tonight's round of the ANZCAR Cup. And the green flag waves and away they go. The tricky first starting point of this race is always hard, but watch out for the first corner. That's where we're going to likely see some incidents. Will they all get through it?
Oh, 27, is that, was that 27, Joy?
Jai Schultz losing it just over that little crest in the opening stage, but they've all got through relatively unscathed. A little nerf for a couple of cars, but nothing major, so they've all got through relatively unscathed. Jai Schultz has not got damage, but it's dropped him right to the back of the pack. Rest of the field makes it through relatively unscathed, Mark.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to hurt Jai being back down there now. He's going to have a hell of a job to do to get back through. He needs to finish in front of Norman, I believe, on points to secure. But he also needs to try and get up and onto the back of that 42 of Lachlan Urquio to really make sure he gets through the next stage of the playoffs, Carl.
Absolutely, it's going to be a trickier race for Jai now. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, Ruben Phelps is battling with Christopher Ireland. Ireland makes a nice lunge down the inside through the final chicane and makes his way up into third position. Ruben having a good start getting himself up there, and now Urquio's looking to make the jump up ahead of his teammate. Down the inside he goes and through turn 1, and Lachlan Urquio moves up into 4th position. He is on a charge at the moment, up 2 spots.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the move. Just keeping an eye on Jai. He's made up that one spot. He's been able to get past Brenda Henderson, so he's now down in 13th or up to 13th. The next one that he's got to catch is Christopher Tomlin, one of his teammates there, and then the next one on the list is Norman Clark in front of that. So he's definitely got to keep driving hard, but we just see him there make a little bit of mistake and run wide.
Yeah, that tricky section touches the wall, just entering the oval section there through turn number 8. Not much damage you're going to get from that, but you just got to be careful doing that lap after lap. It can eventually lead to the car getting a little bit tricky.
Yeah, definitely. The real tricky parts, Carl. Oh, as we see Christopher Tomlin straight through the back chicane there. But I was just going to allude to those. Got to be careful not to hit those really big blue ripple strips on the inside of the standard ripple strip, because it can do some damage to your car there.
Absolutely. So what we'll see is Christopher Tomlin, he abandons it, he bails out, and then just a little bit behind Cracknell in the 032, he decides to go through, and he just gets out of the way, Tomlin there, but he goes into the corner, and he's not so lucky. He just gets in a little bit too tight, clips the blue curb, and that's what spins that car around. So it just shows just how much of a tricky corner it is. It is a really tricky part of the racetrack, and these cars, they don't ride the curbs as well as V8 supercars, your touring cars, normally would. So they sort of, they're a little bit more on the edge when you go through corners like that. You can't really afford to whack the big curbs too often, because it really does unsettle the car.
Yeah, definitely. If Lachlan can finish where he is, that should see him through to the next playoff stage. But he's just got to keep his head, keep playing cool, really just drive within himself, because I know his teammate Ruben Phelps behind him. He'll be helping him as much as he can, and letting him know if anyone's coming to challenge him. You can see him there really riding those ripple strips and getting some air under those inside tyres.
Might just jump down to Norman Clark right here, as he is battling it out with Jai Schultz at the moment, and Christopher Tomlin just behind them. This battle has closed up very quickly. Jai's managed to make the moves, make his way up the grid as well. And he's looking to go down the inside through turn number 1 and makes the move there. Nicely done by Jai Schultz. Norman Clark not battling too hard at this stage. Just get the feeling that Norman's just taking it a little bit easier in this early part of the race, hoping that he'll come a bit faster in the latter stages.
Yeah, Norman just seems to sit back and relax. He's a very chilled driver. I know he doesn't really like the road courses, but he always puts in a good show. And we may see some of these guys in front of him when the tyres start to go off or get hot, make a few mistakes, and Norman will just plot through and pick up spots where he can. And it's normally Norman's way of doing things, and we may see him up there in the top 5 at the end of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the big thing is heat here tonight. That's going to be the one killer thing on this track. 37-degree track temperature, 26-degree air temperature at the moment. And that just means that if you get it wrong through one of these corners and light up the rear tyres, you're going to be struggling for the rest of the race. The back end is not going to be settled at all. And it's going to be very easy to make a mistake. These cars take a lot of time just to get those rears cooled down, of course. They've got a lot of horsepower running through the back of them. And they can be very tricky to get working again if you get them too hot. So it's going to be just keeping the car nice and calm for this race. That's going to be the key factor.
It definitely is. A few spots where we can see the guys get loose is where we're watching at the moment. That back section coming back onto the oval circuit. We've seen a lot of cars come over that little rise and turn the car around and end up in the outside fence. So we'll have to keep an eye on that there tonight, Carl.
Yeah, absolutely. This place has got a lot of undulation to it. It's got a lot of high elevation changes through the midsection as well, and that can really catch you off guard. And it's the thing that it adds a little bit of character to this track. Although you ask most drivers and they say it kind of needs that character added to it.
Yeah, well, it's got those funny things too in it, the right-hand turns. I know some of the guys don't like it, but we see NASCAR starting to drift a little bit further, trying to get fit. I think they're aiming for around 2026 to have a 50-50 oval circuit championship. So it'll be interesting to see where they go next year. I do believe next year's race calendar's out for the NASCAR, but yeah, it's something that we're all just going to have to get used to.
Yeah, look, not a bad thing having a few traditional tracks on the course. Although I could say traditional tracks in motorsport are indeed ovals, because that's where it really all started to kick off. But just having some more of the traditional road sort of courses, it just adds a little bit of different sort of style of racing in there. And as a touring car fan, I'm not opposed to that, but it is the oval racing that we do love so much. So hopefully they don't do an IndyCar and completely abandon that and keep us with the exciting ovals as well as some good, exciting road courses and street circuits. Up front is Dyson, Pearson, Ireland. 3 DPR cars in a row at the moment. Dyson's got about a 2-second lead over Pearson, and you can see on your screen there between Ireland and Pearson, not quite as much, about a second gap between those two cars, less than that actually, as I say, they're about 0.8 of a second. So those guys are having a good race up front. They are a good couple of seconds ahead of Lachlan Erpio at the moment, about 3 seconds lead over the first of the SRM machines. Ruben Phelps sits in just behind him in 5th position, and then it's Matty Ray in 6th. Luke Crum having a solid night in 030 at the moment. He's up in 7th position, holding on to the back of this group, keeping himself ahead of Dave Douglas in 8th position. Joshua Carroll-Walden in 9th. As you can see there, JCW is looking to try and make a move up ahead of Douglas. Can't quite get it done at the moment, but he is looking and starting to put the number 10 under some pressure. And then rounding out our top 10 is Jai Schultz, having a good recovery so far. He's managed to make himself back up almost to his starting position of 9th. So just a little bit more to go for him, but he's having a solid run. Just a fairly big gap now to close in on Joshua Carroll-Walden.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing here tonight, Carl, is with Bathurst weekend, a lot of guys would have headed off to Bathurst to watch it live. The field isn't as big as what we probably hope, but it will have some big ramifications on on the playoffs, because I think right now, if we ended it right now, Guy and Norman would be the two that would miss out on the next stage of the playoffs. I'm just trying to work out in my head and on some paper whether that is correct, or it may end up being Lachlan and Norman missing out, and Joy getting in with such a small point difference.
Yeah, it's really, really close at the moment. There is not much to play for, and look, it's going to be just a bit of waiting just on those results to come through once all the maths has been worked out on those ones, and we'll have that all updated for you next week, of course. But if you can't wait till then, head over to the ANZCAR Facebook page for the race reports, and that will have the details there. Also, of course, ANZCAR website as well, with the race reports on there. So if you need to find out a little bit sooner, head on over to there. Yeah, tonight it's going to be a close one for these guys. They've really got to work hard to get this one set up for themselves. And look, at the moment, Okrio's doing the right thing. He's sat in 4th position and is doing all he can to stay in that spot and keep himself in with a shout, getting through to the next stage of the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. Lockie's got a bone between his teeth tonight, and he's really trying hard. Some good lap times there. His last lap was only it was under a second slower than the 3 DPR guys. And we've got to remember that these DPR boys have a road racing background, so that they're out to prove a point that they are still the best on the circuit tracks.
Absolutely, and Dysart there, he has got a pedigree on the road racing courses. He is one of the best in Australia for a reason, and it just shows it when he comes to a track like this, just how quick he can be. I might just hand over to you for a few moments, Mark. I'll be right back with you.
Yep, no worries. And now I'll just play with my cameras here for a ticket.
I'll jump in as well, Mark, and give
Yep.
you a hand.
The battle at the moment. The closest battle is between Matty Ray, Luke Crum, Dave Douglas, and JCW. They are all nose to tail, very close, within a second of each other as they come across to complete lap 10, lap 9, I should say, of 45. So Matty Ray just plodding along there. He's pretty safe in the playoffs at the moment, Matt, I would say.
Yeah, I think he is. This battle, certainly, these 4 cars are closing up. It's good to see. Yeah, of course, Matty Ray and Luke Crum's not in the chase, but Dave Douglas is, and JCW is no longer in the chase as well. So, yeah, they've definitely got a lot to sort of play for. They want to keep the car clean, make sure they finish well, and just bag as many points as they can, but see if they can make it through.
Yeah. Well, Ruben's who's sitting in 5th place, is definitely through into the playoffs. Especially if he finishes where he is tonight. So he'll be through to the next stage. And then as Carl and you alluded to, Lachlan is definitely doing the correct things, but I just don't see the point gap being big enough for Lockie to make it through, because he's sitting in last spot or second last spot in that cutoff position. So it's definitely going to be a big ask for Lockie.
Well, yeah, in saying that, I'll just check the points up on the screen for the viewers. There's only, he entered the race only 4 points behind Schultz, and so if Lockie's in 4th now and Schultz is 10th, that's 6 points different.
Yep, so Lockie will make it through.
Yeah, and the other driver he's worried about is Norman Clark, who's now 12th. So, yeah, if Lockie keeps running, Urquhart keeps running where he is now, he should, in theory, make the gap up to the cut line.
Yeah, definitely. That will definitely happen. So Lockie just needs to just settle down and drive within himself, keep that car where it is, and keep it straight.
Yeah, he's got to find the balance. He's got to be fast. He's got to stay up the front, but he can't push too hard and risk putting the car into the wall, doing damage. ending up, finishing below Schultz and Clark.
Yeah. So that battle group is definitely heating up a little bit at the moment. We see Crum just closing in on the back of the SRM team boss, Matty Ray.
And in the past, I've seen Crum. I believe he's pretty strong on road courses, so
Yeah,
I think he might have
is.
a bit of a road course background.
Yeah, he has done a lot of road racing. So it will be interesting to see. But as we said, Matt, Matt can afford to probably lose 1 or 2 spots, but he probably want to stay in front of Dave Douglas to just make sure he is in through to the next stage.
Mm. Yeah, he'll have to weigh up that decision whether how hard he fights with Crum for the position. If he's wanting to just make it into the next round, he might just have the mentality just to let Crum go and just sit behind him. Yeah.
Well, back up the front, mate, we've got a battle for second and third between 2 of the VPR cars, Neil Pearson and Christopher Island. That gap has really shut down while we've been talking about that mid-pack battle. Through that last chicane, Island was right up on the back of Pearson, really pushing him, and we can see that he's pushing him a little bit. Well, Pearson just gets a little bit tail happy there, coming through over the strike.
Yeah, the body language of that Island car looks aggressive. Like he really thumped the turtle curbs at the end of the exit of the final chicane there, and a little bit sideways, putting the power down. So he's definitely sort of pushing pretty hard at the moment, I think.
Well, we've definitely got 2 cars locked in, and that's the 41 of Andrew Dyson and the 62 there, the red DPR car of Pearson. They are definitely through. So realistically, Pearson could afford to let Island go if he wanted to, and just sit back and have a relaxing race, but we know Pearson all too well, and he doesn't like to finish second to anyone, really.
No, but and the other flip side to that is these 3 cars, Island being a relative newcomer to the series, so he's not in the chase. The 3 cars at the front have nothing to lose, so they can really roll the dice and they can race each other hard. And if it goes all wrong and they have a bit of a crash, it doesn't really matter. They're locked into the next round of the chase. Yeah, this is just for them. It's just a really, really fun race for them.
Yeah, definitely. And we can see that there by the way Pearson's throwing that car around at the moment.
Yeah,
so the other good...
Pearson and Island, I think Pearson and Island definitely pretty willing to have a good fun race and race each other hard at the moment.
Yeah. Look, the other person that we might just jump to is Brendan Henderson. He's nowhere, but he's been a regular this season throughout the ANZCAR season. He's improved so much through the 2 seasons that he's been running with both the Warriors and ANZCAR, and it's good to see him out there just circulating and getting a bit more experience on the road courses.
Sorry, I just got to jump in quickly because Norman Clark is in the pit lane.
Yeah,
with some heavy damage to the left front of the car. He's had a big accident going through the back part of the track, going through turns 12 and 13. He's just caught the apron a little bit, and caught the curb a little bit. He locked up a little bit going into the corner, and took heavy damage on that chicane. So we'll see in a little bit of time here as he comes up to that section and just locks the wheel a little bit. And this is disastrous for Norman Clark's chances of getting through to the next stage.
Yeah, if there's too much damage there, he'll find himself a lap down, and he definitely won't be much good getting through the next stage of the playoffs.
That's it. So watch this coming up through this section. He's starting to close a little bit on Tomlin, and he's just going to lock the wheel up, and it's just a tiny lock up of the right front tyre, and just sends him in a little bit deep. Puff of smoke, just catches the blue curb, can't abandon it. And look at that huge damage to that car. And that's going to be a long job of getting that thing repaired. And it's going to be a tough night now for Norman Clark to get a strong finish. But the race is not over just yet. Anything can happen. And as we were talking, similar things happened to Christopher Tomlin. Just going through the midsection of the track, he took heavy damage on the right front of the car. Just going through turns 7, just going back onto the oval section, and he's had to bring it in for some repairs too. So just takes a momentary lapse, just a tiny little incident, a tiny little moment, I should say, and you're going to have a big amount of damage on your hand. And it's just so quick how this race can come undone for you.
Yeah, it definitely is. And unfortunately, we see now Norman Clark drop a lap down. So just been out looking at the car, there's still some heavy damage on the left front of that car, but he's back out circulating. And unfortunately, I'm afraid to say I do think that's his playoff chase over.
That's it, as we just saw Tomlin's accident there, and big impact. And again, that's just going to tear the tyre off a little bit, and that's going to really cost him an enormous amount of time. That's going to be a hefty price to pay. He's managed to get the car out in front of Clark, but it's going to be a long old race for those guys now.
Yeah, it definitely is. So, Matt, back to Matt and I were just talking. So right now, if the race had to end, the two drivers that would be out of the playoff would be Norman Clark and Jai Schultz, because Lockie is still sitting up there, Carl in 4th place, although he has dropped 14 seconds off the lead now.
Well, he can afford to sort of lose a little bit of time to those three. He's just got to keep ahead of the rest, and that's what he's doing at the moment. A really good job. Not disparaging to Lockie at all, but he just doesn't have the pace of Dyson in front of him. And got to say, Pearson and Ireland are keeping that pace together as well. And if you start trying to chase those lap times, there's more chance of a big mistake happening, as we just saw.
Yeah, just I don't know whether he actually brushed the wall or it was very close. Oh, I would say that's a tyre rub there.
Yeah, that was very close there, and you can't afford to have a big hit on that car. Just as we were watching that, Dyson went in and did a 1:19.5. He's just done the fastest lap of the race. So the fuel loads are starting to go down. Tyres are starting to feel comfortable and good. And Dyson is starting to get the pace up, and he's just so confident on brakes. He can just get on the grass, get the car in, and just absolutely nail those corners. And he does just get down into a 19.3 there.
Yeah, sorry, Carl. I was just watching Joy come back onto the oval on that back turn, and again he's out against the wall, touching the wall, rubbing the wall. He's going to have to be very careful there, because if he does it too many more times, he's going to end up in the same position as Norman, unfortunately.
It's playing with fire, isn't it, when you're doing that kind of thing? And if you can get it absolutely done to perfection, you can absolutely get yourself out to those walls, take advantage of the track. But you are playing with fire. Eventually, you're going to get burnt. And all it takes is one little mistake, and you could find yourself in a very poor position. So we'll see how that one plays out.
Sorry, we've just seen Christopher Tomlin and Joy almost touch through that centre infield. Joy just needs to settle. The race will come back to him if he just settles down and keeps within himself. I feel like he's pushing just that little bit too hard, and I think something drastic may happen if he keeps pushing the way he is.
Yeah, he's currently setting his fastest laps of the race. He just did a 21.48 last time round, so he is pushing to the maximum in that car. And well, for his championship, he needs to do that, Mark. So that's the problem. He needs to push to the absolute limits now to try and get himself through to the next stage. So it's in a win it or bin it situation for somebody like Jai Schultz at the moment. He has absolutely got to go all out now to the end of this race to try and gain up some positions, to try and get himself into a position where he can find his way through to the next stage.
Yeah, I just feel though that he just needs to just back off just that ever so slightly. Let those tyres cool down a little bit, because he's just pushing and getting that rear end to slide. And we've all seen what happens when those rear tyres get hot and get marshmallowy. They don't stay under that car for long.
Oh, well, we'll see how it unfolds in the race. Because again, as we say, it's just that thing of if you can make it work, you can find some big gains, but it is a big risk situation. And well, he's got to take those risks at the moment. He is in a position where he can still find himself through to the next stage of the playoffs. But the only way he's going to do that is by risking everything, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're correct there, Carl. But we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out for him.
Very much so. You can't sort of drive around relying on other people to make mistakes, unfortunately. It's you just got to really go for it. And we're seeing that here. This little group of cars, Luke Crum, Dave Douglas and JCW, they are really going for it at the moment. And if these guys start battling, that's going to give somebody like Jai Schultz the opportunity to make up time and possibly make a move on him. As we saw just on the side of the picture there, Neil Pearson giving the wall a little rub as his fight between himself and Tom and Ireland continues up at the front. One of the good things about this track is you really get a great view of all the cars on track going through turns 1 and 2 and 7 and 8, of course. Oh, up the front there is disaster for DPR because Neil Pearson's made a mistake and Christopher Ireland's gone right into the back of him. 2 cars have gone around and that is a huge moment for the team.
And this will, Lachlan will be loving this, seeing that just in front of him. That will give Lachlan a little bit of incentive to go a little bit harder as Ireland pulls it into the pits.
Yeah, I think Ireland got some damage out of that. I wouldn't be surprised if Pearson did as well. Ireland's got a fair bit of damage to the left front of that car, and I think he's needing to get some repairs done, or even actually a penalty. I think it's actually a drive-through penalty. He's got 12 X's, so it's a drive-through penalty there for Ireland. So not a pit stop. He's just got a drive-through, and that's exactly what ANZCAR would have liked to see.
And that's also what Jai Schultz would want to see too, and also Dave Douglas, because I'm just trying. It's only dropped him down to 5th place.
Yeah, he's got a big lead over the rest of them, Mark. So it's not going to be too much of a drop in position, but it will really affect the front runners. So the top 5 have got a good gap over the rest of the field, you got to say. So it's going to be a very big effect on that sort of top 5 group, and it's going to really help ANZCAR. Could give him a podium at this stage.
Yeah, definitely. And back to that middle group of the guys running 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th. We've had a change there. JCW's been able to get in front of Dave Douglas, and that puts Dave Douglas and Jai Schultz, the battling group there for... and as we say that, JCW's gone around, coming through that back chicane, and Dave Douglas has gone into the back of him. They've both kept going, but that's allowed Jai Schultz to get through.
Okay, we'll jump to that right now, and we're just seeing that replay of Pearson and Ireland's contact with each other. And just Pearson took a bit too much curve, lost speed in that corner, and that's caused Ireland to get into the back of him. So all action at the moment, as Crum and Douglas are both into the pit lane for their stops, I believe. So
we see here JCW has been able to get up the inside and going into turn 1 of Dave Douglas. And
then
it's not until the back chicane where we see the action between the 3 of them, with JCW looping the car.
Okay.
It's all right. It's one of those things that we have issues with, Matt. So the viewers will be happy to see the lead up to this anyway. So and as we can see him come back onto the oval, and it's coming into this chicane where we see JCW loop it. I just missed how he did it. I think he may have caught that inside curb.
I'm going to find out now. It looks like he's gone a little bit wide on the entry there. He catches the curb, and that's going to really unsettle the car. And around she goes. And Dave's got nowhere to go other into the back of JCW.
And that's allowed Jai a clean run through there, and you get in front of both of them.
And that's exactly what Jai Schultz would have wanted to see there. Meanwhile, as that was all unfolding, Norman Clark had another moment coming back onto the track. And you can see the right front of that car is damaged. He had to come down pit lane to get some repairs done. It's been a horror show for Norman Clark tonight. That 09 is not handling at all well with the damage on it from the first incident. And the second one has just made it almost undrivable. But Norman Clark sticking out there, trying to keep it going for the moment. But it's going to be a long night in the office for the 09 at the Black Arrows of Norman Clark.
I'll tell you who the big benefactor of all of that going on has been Schultz. He's now up to 7th. He's only 4 points behind Phelps. So by my reckoning, that puts them tied on points. So I don't know what the countback's going to be.
Yeah, this could be crucial for Erkner to get the podium in sort of countback terms or something like that, because it's going to be really, really tight there as they're just passing Brenton Henderson at the moment. So Neil Pearson just goes past, and now Lockie just dives down the inside. So that's really going to close things up for these guys. And yeah, this is exactly not what Erkner wanted to see in his mirrors. He needed Jai Schultz to have a torrid night as well as Norman Clark. So it's going to make things a little bit tricky. We are seeing some pit stops happening down through the field. So a couple of people coming down the lane to get some get some fuel in the car, I believe. But quite a few people have been down the lane as well because of, I believe, they've had their incident point limit hit the cap. So could be a couple of instances of people just having to serve some drive-throughs as well.
Yeah, that's got to hurt you here on the Roval if you get a drive-through. We've seen Ireland come down for that a drive-through, but luckily, as you said, Carl, he's had a big enough gap over the rest of the field that it only dropped him to 5th place. Jai Schultz in pit lane.
I've just been thinking about that points. If they end up with equal points, I don't know if there's a tiebreaker, or there should be, but I think if there was, I think Jai would have it with having a win this season.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Don't know if we go on tiebreaker via the run through the playoffs. Who's had the best position in the playoffs? Who's had the best position in the season? It sounds like a fantastic predicament to be in. Let's hope we don't have that happen.
Certainly be interesting, but yeah, Urquhart he's not thinking about that. He's just trying to do the best job he can, and he can't control what's going on behind him. So yeah, just keep your eyes forward, do as best you can, and see what happens in the end.
Dave Douglas managing to jump Schultz there. So Dave Douglas's pit stop came through a little bit quicker, and he's managed to jump back ahead of Jai Schultz. So that is good news there for Dave. He's managed to put himself up a little bit higher, and it could be good news for Erkrio as well, just having that little bit of a buffer between himself and Schultz. So lots of different things going on here, lots of different battles and different options, different things that can happen in this race still. So championship wise, it is it's going to be very, very tight indeed.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to the last couple of laps here tonight, Carl, I think, and then it'll be I think it'll be an anxious wait to see the points and if there's any penalties from the administrators or anything like that may come up post-race once they get to have a look at it again. So it'll be an anxious wait for a few drivers there tonight.
Just looking at the battle for P2 at the moment, and Urquio is catching on Pearson. He is really close the gap up to P2 at the moment, and is starting to apply the pressure. And I think we're going to see them coming down the pit lane as well. So we're going to start to see some pit stops here from the front runners as Neil Pearson comes into the lane with Urquio. As they get so close to each other, getting to the line, and Phelps as well. So that's second, third, fourth, fifth in, as well as Ireland comes into the lane. Dyson manages to hold it out an extra lap, gets it going an extra lap from here. But we've got our leaders' pit stops happening, and this is going to be a race off of pit road as well. Who's got this time to perfection? Well, so far, DPR have been the masters of the pit stops, but can SRM catch a break tonight and jump themselves ahead as they get underway? Nice stop from Urquio. He's managed to close the gap a little bit on Pearson, but remains behind him. So this is now a battle back on the racetrack between these two cars.
I was going to say too, who's made some changes through this stop? Who's taken tyres? Who's tried to short fill a little bit to gain that little bit of extra time and a little bit of less weight in the car. So it's really going to come down to the end, the finishing laps of the race for these guys.
Yeah, it's going to be tight indeed. Unfortunately, my system's not showing me the stationary time for some unknown reason, so that's making things a little bit more awkward. But looks like they only took fuel, so he's on the same tyres. But if they did a couple of little tweaks here and there, that could help him in this final stage. But we'll find out as we go into the final 18 laps here tonight at the Charlotte Roval here at Performance eStreaming. So the battle for the championship is going to be an interesting one, and it's going to be a tight one as well to see who gets through to the next round of the playoffs. We do know that Dyson and Pearson are locked in. It's looking good for Maddie Ray at the moment, Dave Douglas, and as well as Ruben Phelps. Those three are relatively safe, you've got to say. But the battle between Jai Schultz, Norman Clark, Lachlan Urquio, that's the really tight one at the moment. And it's going to be crucial for them all to finish as well. Though Norman Clark's had a bit of a rough night and is struggling out there for sure, he's still circulating. So if somebody has a big accident and they sort of don't make it to the finish, he could easily jump them. So you can't rely on sort of making a mistake and getting through just because the other car is a bit slow. You've got to get to that finish line tonight because Clark is not giving up. So that's going to be a really important one to go for. Finally got Andrew Dyson in pit lane. He did a good 29 laps on that stint. So 28 laps, I should say. And he's in the pit lane finally to get some fuel in the car. But
I was going to say, I think that those technical guys need to look at that fuel line underneath the car, mate. But we've seen that all year with those DPR cars being able to just save that little bit of extra fuel and get one or two extra laps out of the tank. And again, that comes down to their experience on road courses. With their experience, they know where to let the car roll, where not to push it. So it's
It takes me back to I'm trying to think of the race now. It was a recent race in GT racing, but there was a driver talking. He right foot braked, so he was a right foot braker, and because he was doing that, he was saving about an extra 2 laps of fuel at I think it was Daytona. I'm trying to think now, but I've got a feeling it was at Daytona, maybe the 24. But he was actually gaining about 2 laps over the rest of the field, who were sort of in the left foot braking group, and it was really making a big difference there. And it's it's one of those little things that can make a huge difference in a race car.
Yeah, definitely. And because you've actually got to get off the gas that little bit earlier to bring your foot over and your normal street car, you normally brake with your right foot. So it's different with some people with their races. I know I'm a left foot braker when I race because of driving sprint cars and different things. That feels natural to me with the left brake. But a lot of these guys are still right foot breakers, as you said, Carl.
That's it, and it can make a difference to the fuel consumption, and the little things like that make the difference out there. As we look through the order, it's Neil Pearson sitting in second at the moment, Andrew Dyson in the lead. Lachlan Uckrier still trying to close that gap on third place. Good run for the 42 at the moment, up 3 spots. Ruben Phelps sits in fourth position, with Christopher Island hot on his heels in 5th spot.
You've got
Rally Ray comes in 6th position, with Dave Douglas sitting in 7th, a little bit further back. And he's got to keep the pace up because Jai Schultz is closing that gap, trying to get closer to Dave Douglas. Jai sitting in 8th position. 9th, we have JCW. And Luke Crum is rounding out our top 10 at the moment.
I was just going to say, is Ruben going to play a little bit of a team player here and try and just hold Island up just that ever so slightly?
Well,
as we can see, Island really looking to get around Ruben at the moment. He's looking inside, he's looking outside, but it definitely doesn't. He's made the move here down the inside.
Tricky place to overtake. He's going to be on the outside now as they come into the corner, and Ireland is going to take the position. Very nicely done through the infield section there of the track.
Yeah, that's some confidence driving there to go around the outside in that turn, because we've seen over many years and that we've been here that is probably one of the worst places to overtake and try and make a move.
It's a really tricky section, even when you're driving these cars, because it's got a lot of crests and dips through it. Very easy to spin the car out there, and especially if you're going too wide. Very nicely driven there from Christopher Island. He's got to be careful though, because he is sitting on 12 incident points in this race. Neil Pearson currently sitting on 10 incident points. So Pearson's also got to be very careful, because he could find himself with a drive-through in the very near future, like this man Christopher Island did.
And Lachlan Uckrier, we are praying to the gods that happens for Neil. He'd be looking at wanting to get up in the second spot any way he can. Just looking at the battle back for 8th and 9th, JCW has closed that gap right up onto the back of Jai Schultz now, and starting to put some real pressure on him.
He puts him under pressure there, and there's a bit of a lock-up. This could be JCW's opportunity, and this is a really tough place to pass as well. This section gets very tight indeed. First few corners here, Jai Schultz positions the car nicely though. Got the inside and takes it through and keeps the position just about. Very, very close to losing it there. Very nice job from Jai Schultz. Great defensive driving there.
This is the corner where we've seen Jai touch that outside wall, but he's made it through there nice and clean this time round. So he's definitely getting some pressure from JCW here tonight.
Yeah, JCW is really applying his screws to him, and he could be looking to try and make a lunge through one of these heavy braking zones, but not really a place you can launch the car. You've got to just position it right and hope that the driver in front of you is going to play a little bit of game. So easy to make contact through those corners, and good battle going on here for position 8th and 9th on track. And you can see JCW all over the back of Schultz at the moment. Really, really putting pressure on him. And he's going to try down the inside again here. He's got more room this time. He goes down the inside. Jai Schultz goes up and under. He's going for the other approach. He goes up underneath JCW. And again, beautiful defensive driving from the 27, keeping that spot once more.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a battle, and we have seen in the past just a momentary lapse of concentration, and it could all end very badly for both these guys.
Yeah, this is beautiful driving by both of them at the moment, though. They are really doing a great job and giving us a great battle to view on track, as well as Joe gets a little bit of a worse run out of that final corner onto the oval section, and that's going to get JCW closing in once more up towards the chicanes. JCW's going for the lunge. He locks up the brakes, manages to pull the car up in time. Jai Schultz had to lose a little bit of speed there, just knowing that there was a car sailing up his inside. He did the nice thing of just letting the car roll a little bit. He left the brakes out, knew that JCW was going to pull up in time, and then took the corner, and that cost JCW a huge amount of time. Really nice fight going on there. And another battle on track is this between Urquio and Ireland, and this is a crucial fight now. This is for position 3. This is for a podium spot, and for DPR to try and get a lockout on the podium. Urquio trying to get through to the next round of the playoffs. And, well, this is a crucial battle now, and Urquio is going to be feeling all the pressure behind him now. He's been attacking all race long, but now he has got to defend.
Yeah, he's definitely got to put some big defends on. But is Ireland going to be nice to him? I know he'll probably want to have a DPR 1, 2, 3, a complete lockout. Urquio, just getting a bit loose there, coming back on through that last chicane. He's just got to drive nice and easy, keep doing what he's been doing. But we can definitely see that Ireland is definitely putting the thumb screws on the Urquio now.
Yeah, this is really close stuff, and they're coming up to Norman Clark now through this section. That could come into play here, as Ireland's looking to make a lunge down the inside. They're side by side. They're 3 wide going through the corner. They make it through. Ireland makes a fantastic pass there into turn 5 and 6. That was mental stuff, and they all got through without wrecking. That was incredibly close, and I wouldn't mind seeing a replay of that if we can get it.
Yeah, high risk move, and it definitely paid off for him. Some great driving from all 3 drivers there, Carl.
Yeah, that was epic stuff. Look at that. Urquio in the middle there. Ireland decides he's going to go down the inside. He sees the lap car coming up, sees he's going to take a chance. Urquio sees Norman Clark's going to go wide. Ireland, beautiful job of just keeping the car in. Urquio maybe just gave him a little bit of room because he took that curb full attack. But that was absolutely edge of your seat stuff. And you can see Urquio just gave him a little bit of room. There was a little bit of rubbing on the exit there as well. But that was awesome stuff. Well, I think that's going to be one of the moves of the season, isn't it, Mark?
I think so. I definitely think that is the move of the year, because we've not seen too many guys take a high risk move like that in that position.
Oh, heavy contact there for Urquio coming through turn 7 and 8. It looks like he's gotten away relatively unscathed. He got quite a flat slap on the wall there. Just see that now coming up on the replay. It's the 42, just goes a little bit wide and gives that wall a hefty whack. But luckily, it was more on the door than the wheels. So I reckon he's gotten away relatively unscathed for that one. Although it could have done some damage to the tyre. And I'm just looking now, and he's having to come in the pit lane. I think he's got damage to the wheel now. And it looks like one of the wheels is actually broken, and that's disastrous for Urquio. That is absolutely heartbreaking for him. He's had a fantastic run all night long, but that little lapse in concentration has cost him a huge amount.
Yeah, and that's all. That's what we've said. All it takes is just that little bit of lapse of concentration, and it can have big ramifications.
It's going to be a big repair job there, just getting the wheel reattached and properly aligned. And that's going to be, well, that's going to be chances of getting through to the next stage out and over and done with for Equio, unfortunately, unless anything dramatic happens in this race. And well, we've got 8 laps remaining. Anything dramatic could still happen, of course.
Yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on it. He's underway again, so he's going to end up a lap down because Dyson is coming through turn 1 now.
Yeah, it's dropped Equio right down into 9th position here. So he's just behind JCW, just ahead of Luke Crum. But that is, well, it's a painful thing to have happen this close to the end of the race for sure.
Yeah, and I think you may be right. I think that may, unless he can get back up in front of Josh Schultz, I think that's his playoff season done for the 2023.
Yeah, big shame. Some really entertaining stuff through this race from the 42 and this season, but just that little moment there on the exit just caught him out, and that is enough to be the end of the race. Well, the championship hopes for Lockie, but a really well-deserved run this season. He's done some great stuff, and look, had a fantastic regular season as well, being one of the most consistent drivers in the series. With those good point finishes, but it's all looking like it's coming to an end from here.
Yeah, it's been a good playoff so far up until the night. You know, we've had the 3 SRM cars in there of Matty Ray, Ruben Phelps, and Lachlan. So he can definitely hold his head high with what he's done this season and that team.
Yeah, they've had a really good season, and getting 3 cars through to the playoffs is no mean feat when you look at the competition through the series. They can at least be comfortable that they've got 2 cars through to the next round, much like DPR, 2 cars through. So it increases the chances of getting that championship, and of course all the next few races will be on those road courses. Meanwhile, we've got a battle between JCW and Jai Schultz once again. JCW has made the move on Jai Schultz through that final section. He got great run off of the corner, got himself past the 27, and he's looking like he could hold that spot now. These two fighting in front of the leader at the moment. So we've got lots of action on our screen for the next 7 or so laps. But the 35 has been threatening to make that move for a long time. Jai Schultz has been really great defensive driving, and he could get it back again as Carol Walden runs a bit wide out of the final chicane, catches the wall, loses a bit of momentum, and that's going to give Jai Schultz the opportunity to take the position back, which he does.
Yeah, unfortunate there for JCW, just heavy contact with that outside wall. But by the looks of it, he's been able to avoid any heavy damage and keep that right front under that car.
And now we go back to the lap-long battle of Schultz and Carol Walden. These two drivers have been really fighting for most of these final few laps and giving us some great entertainment. Other than the Ireland Urquio fight, this has been some of the hottest action on track.
JCW's done the right thing there. He's moved up high to let the race leader Dyson go by, and won't be long before Dyson he puts a lap on Schultz.
We've got something happening up the front. Neil Pearson's made a big mistake. Looks like he's had a big moment as he was battling with his teammate Ireland, and he's just pushed a little bit too hard, and around the car goes, and he has had a big spin going through the midsection of the track, and this is also going to mean he's going to have a drive-through penalty too. This is disastrous for the 62 and DPR, and this could be their chance of locking out the podium well and truly done with. So we'll just see the replay here. Pearson's just got a little bit wide going into the corner. Takes a little bit too much speed through and just loses the rear of the car. So he's just not entered the corner on the right line, and around she goes. And Ireland's managed to sort of get it slowed down in time, missed making contact with his teammate there. But that is disastrous for that team, and that's going to drop Pearson possibly down into fifth position here. I'm just trying to see where Matty Ray is, and he should be around to get fourth still, but it has dropped him right out of those podium positions. A rough night there for Neil Pearson.
And you're right, we just see live pictures again now. Pearson coming out of pit lane. So that, yep. So definitely a penalty, as Matt just tuned in there. So for points, the 12x. So a tour down pit lane.
Yeah, he was just hovering just above those point threshold, and it finally clicked over for him. So that is not what you want to have happen. He's currently sitting on 13 incident points, the same as Christopher Ireland. So they still want to be careful. Another big moment in the next 4 laps could see them even getting taken out of the race. So they've just got to keep the cars in a clean position now to get to the finish. But this is great news for Ruben Phelps. This has jumped him up into 3rd position, and it looks like it could be another podium for Phelps.
He's done really well this playoff. This playoff, he's been there either on the podium or thereabouts every race so far. So definitely carrying some good momentum.
Yeah, it's been a very strong season, very strong close of the season for Phelps in the SRM team, and taking that victory and then his podiums in the playoffs, he is really coming along nicely, and we're seeing the Ruben Phelps of old coming back to us. The very fast Kiwi is really going all out at the moment, and this is it's another decent result. He just has to keep the car on the track for another 3 laps to get that another podium in the playoff season, and I'm sure he will be delighted with that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And Pearson, as we said, back into 4th, and Matty Ray, another top 5 for Matty Ray tonight.
Yeah, again, speaking of consistent drivers, Matty Ray is one that is king of consistency. This race has been a fairly quiet one for himself. He started in 5th position. He's sitting in 5th position, but he is just circulating the car around at a nice amount of speed. He's got a good gap ahead of Douglas. He's not too close to the cars in front of them, but he is just sitting comfortably in that car at the moment, and just in a fairly safe position, you've got to say, in 5th spot ahead of Dave Douglas. So he's just going to hope to keep the car relatively clean and out of trouble, and keep himself with 0x on the instant points and get himself to the end of the race.
Yeah, definitely. And unfortunately, the 2 guys that we're going to lose out of the playoffs will be Norman Clark and Lachlan Urquio. Lachlan's probably he's still circulating out there, but I know there'll be some steam coming out of those ears, thinking to himself what could have been.
Yeah, it was a disastrous moment for him when he caught the wall and dropped himself back. It's a horrible position to be in, and it happens to the best of us sometimes. We just make those little mistakes and cost ourselves some really good spots, and it's just going to be something he's going to have to take a breath and rejigger himself, but it's not been a bad season for him at all. As I said, the 2023 season has been a very strong season for Urquio. Meanwhile, Andrew Dyson is flying around the track and absolutely doing his usual service on the road courses as he's coming up to take the white flag for his final lap of the race. So he's just coming up to lap Dave Douglas in 6th position as Norman Clark gets out the way as well. Norman Clark absolutely carrying on with this race, despite having a car that looks like it's been through a crusher. He's going to be disappointed with being out from this one, but he always said it's not going to be his strongest race. as the white flag comes out. Just one more lap remain for Andrew Dyson. 3.6 kilometres to go for himself tonight. Still battling his Jai Schultz and Joshua Carroll-Walden, but that fight is starting to sort of. They're not going to really have much more time to make any moves from here for that little fight. But keep an eye on that one on our screens as we watch Dyson on the main one. Just see if there's anything going on down the field. But Dyson's, again, just another really solid run from him. It was never in doubt that he would take the win tonight, was it?
No, definitely not. And I guess what do you do if you're Dave Douglas? Do you let Dyson go around you so you can finish at finish as I say that he does exactly that. Moves high, lets Andrew Dyson pie. So that'll save him a couple of litres of fuel.
Yeah, a little bit of fuel, a little bit of driving mileage. You can just take a bit of a breather now, as he doesn't have to complete another lap of this fantastic course. I'll say that with a bit tongue, but it's going to be Andrew Dyson coming through here to take victory here tonight at the Roval as he comes across the line. And we'll keep an eye out for Christopher Island, who's going to be looking to take his best finish in ANZCAR in P2. So a really solid run from Ireland tonight. It's been a really good race, and well, that overtaking move on Kyo is a standout moment for him, and we'll definitely be talking to him about that in the close-up. Ruben Phelps is going to come home in third position. A really solid run from Ruben tonight. He has had a very nice drive and just kept that car right in position all night long, and done a really good job of keeping himself out of trouble and just in a position where he can get a strong finish. Neil Pearson, he's had a couple of mistakes tonight, and we've seen this from Neil on the road courses lately, just trying to push that little bit harder and having those little mistakes creeping in. And tonight it's happened again. But fourth position is not a bad finishing spot indeed. And finally, crossing the line, it's Mr. Manny Ray for SRM. He comes home in fifth position with Christopher Tomlin, the final car to cross the line tonight, in 14th spot.
Yeah, some heartbreaking stories there tonight, and the two that you got to think of is Norman Clark and Lachlan Urquio. Unfortunate for them, they are out of the playoffs now. A good run right through to the night, and definitely look forward to bigger things from them next year.
Yeah, that's it. It's always the thing. You could go bigger, go harder next season, and hopefully this little battle at the end has just given them the confidence going into next year to really take it through. As we see the drivers doing their cool down lap, and they've just given the back end a little bit of a wiggle there. But Daiso coming round to do some celebrations. I think he's already done a little bit of burnouts through the lap, but he's coming round to get himself in a good position for the photos here at the end. So let us look through the order here tonight. We'll go through the finishing positions, and it's Andrew Dyson taking out victory here tonight ahead of Christopher Island. Ruben Phelps comes home in second spot. In third spot. Christopher Island comes home in second spot with Ruben Phelps in third. Neil Pearson comes home fourth with Manny Ray fifth. Sixth, Dave Douglas. Jai Schultz comes home seventh, and should just about lock himself in to the next stage of the playoffs. Joshua Carroll-Walden comes home eighth. A great battle between those two all race long. Lachlan Urquio, valiant effort tonight. He comes home in ninth position. And Luke Crum rounds out the top 10 here tonight. It's Michael Cracknell in P11. A solid run from him tonight. It's nice to see him back out on track with Brenton Henderson in 12th, 13th for Norman Clark. And Christopher Tomlin rounds out the field in 14th position.
Well, as you said, Carl, that's the last circuit track for the year. Next week we're back onto the ovals, and Again, I believe we are at Vegas. So if I go missing, just come find me down one of those funny machines.
Going to be a busy couple of weeks over in Las Vegas as the F1 circus is starting to get their tendrils in and look to be heading there, and the NASCAR circus will be there in force as well as the ANZCAR circus. Is unfortunately we just go there virtually, not quite the all expenses paid trip to Vegas that we were expecting, Mark.
I think we better talk to the boss man here, see if we can get there one day.
Absolutely, I feel like it should be a absolutely perfectly legitimate thing to ask for, that we broadcast from Las Vegas when we do the Las Vegas round of the Cup. I feel like it's only fair that we have all expense paid trip there. Okie dokie, just waiting for Ruben Phelps to mosey on down into the green room. But while we wait for him, we might bring up our second place man, Christopher Ireland, while we wait for Ruben, and we'll just have a quick chat to our second place finisher. We'll do it a little bit out of order tonight, but we will quickly chat to Christopher Ireland here tonight. So we'll bring up the number 6-2 Freer, Christopher Ireland, P2 here tonight, mate. Congratulations on a solid run here at the Roval.
Thank you very much, fellas. Nice to meet you all. Very happy to be here.
It's nice to have you finally up here in the booth for DPR. It's, you've been taking your time to get up here for DPR, but a solid result from yourself tonight. And well, we're going to talk a little bit about certain overtake a little bit in a few moments. But it was a busy night for you out there. You had some avoidance moments, especially with your teammate, Mr. Neil Pearson.
Oh yeah, that was good fun. It was very much so a race of ups and downs. I mean, iRacing decided to give me a little bit of a challenge in the middle of the race. Wanted to give me a drive through, so had to have a bit of a pre-race, mid-race drink, chuck in the chalky milk, and get set for the last half. But it was good. Good racing with Neil. Kind of almost killed him, which was not very good, but it was good fun.
Absolutely. Well, with that sort of final moment, well, there's two moments with Neil, actually. You were right behind him. It doesn't look like there was any contact, but looked like you were pushing him to the maximum.
Yeah. I mean, we both were pushing absolute as hard as we can, trying to keep up with Dice out there. So, we were both racing hard. I mean, obviously, Neil's already made it through the next round of the playoffs, so he said, go for your heart's content. And I said, yeah, why not? Obviously didn't come off very well in the first instance, but got there in the end.
Absolutely. And, well, there was a mega move done by yourself on Lachlan Urquio as well, going past Norman Clark. You decided to take it 3 wide through one of the trickiest parts of the circuit, going up through, 5 and 6, I think it was. What were you thinking through that part of the track?
As cliche as it sounds, it was an unintentional move. I got a little bit of a better run on him coming out of 4 there, and I thought, I could make this work around the outside. He shut the door on the outside, so I thought, try and see if I can get a better run on the inside. But I wasn't gonna go for it in the initial stage. I put the nose up there just so he would realize that I'm there and hopefully make a mistake, because that's usually how I like to pass. But he broke a little bit earlier. I licked the stamp, sent it, and all paid off. So.
Absolutely, a really epic move. We were glad to catch that one. It looks very good on the replay. Look, big congratulations tonight for your first podium in ANZCAR as well. P2 here tonight, and hopefully we're going to see you back up there once we get back on the regular circuits, back on the oval side of things.
Oh, fingers crossed, hopefully.
Look, congratulations, like Chris. We'll make Daiso do the hard work of all the sponsors and stuff like that, but any personal shout outs you'd like to say hello to tonight?
Cheers, sake, you're not used to that. That's getting money.
That's the tricky part. Look, as I said, luckily Dyson can do all that stuff for you.
Exactly.
Look, I'll just say as well, Ryan Jones and Philip Worley were cheering you on in the chat as well tonight.
You love the support, don't you?
You do. You're their favourite teammate now. Congratulations, Chris, and I'm sure we'll see you back in the booth soon, mate.
Thanks, fellas. Have a good one.
Christopher Island there. First podium in ANZCAR up in P2 here tonight. Next up, it's the SRM man in third position. We're doing a little bit out of order tonight. As we said, it's the number 06, the Flying Kiwi himself. It's Ruben Phelps. Ruben, welcome back to the booth, mate. And another podium in this run in the playoffs. Another good result from yourself.
Yeah, no, it's been a consistent top 5 run for me lately. So, yes, just driving to as much caution as possible, but hard as usual. So, it's paying off.
It is indeed, and well, you had some really good pace tonight, and you just kept the car clean, and I think that's a crucial thing for tonight's race. You kept the car off the walls and relatively incident-free all night long.
Well, exactly. Like, even at the start, I was obviously thought I'll try and get a bit of track position, but of course I moved backwards. But obviously, the objective tonight was obviously try and help Lockie, obviously get into the next part of it. But honestly, I have no idea what happened. All I heard was him say "oh no," and we haven't heard from him since. So I have no idea what's going on. But whatever happened is, I think, might have costed him to get into that next part. But things happen, I suppose.
Yeah, unfortunately, a bit of contact with the wall going through turn 7. Just ran a bit wide, unfortunately, and that was his night over and done with. But you guys were working well together tonight. All of the team looked like you had it switched on and giving each other a lot of support out there tonight.
Well, exactly, because obviously we've been doing quite a bit of practice this week, and we already had Lockie was already the benchmark for us. So once we obviously got through that first few laps, obviously we just sort of put ourselves in, fastest to slowest order of the top 3 there, and obviously that sort of played. I just played the Mr. Protection, but I mean, obviously can't help when we make mistakes, and obviously Pearson and Ireland got together. That was interesting, but and of course Neil having a couple more incidents by himself. But that's the thing. It's you got to if you want to get a result, is minimize the mistakes.
Absolutely, and look, you had a good battle with Ireland. We saw that as well, and you gave him a nice bit of defensive driving there as well. But obviously, he had a little bit more speed on you tonight, so it was one of those things that looked like you sort of gave as much defensive as you could, but you weren't going to lose too much time from it.
Well, exactly. I mean, I would have been better to put my car at a better spot, but at the same time, I knew he had the pace, so really ineligible to let him pass anyway. But once he got there, it was just salvage, and then obviously whatever happened to Lockie is where that run sort of ended. But we did what we could do when things happen, and obviously. But the main thing is, me and Maddie I think should have been in the next rounds, and which obviously starts next week. So rebuild and get moving on and start again.
Absolutely. Look, good luck for the next stage of the playoffs to all of you at SRM. Before I let you go, though, Mr. Ruben Phelps, the usual thing, the love, the shout out to the sponsors, the people, go for it. You've earned it tonight.
But I got the thing, John Labber for Mobile Broken Mechanicals, of course Dan Hurley, mate of Auckland Hotels, Raymond P. Moondog for Moondog, Murphy's Mitre 10, and our charities of alopecia and Tourette Syndrome Australia.
Always good.
And of course, SRM Australia.
Oh, yeah. Probably a good idea to say it.
Oh, no, yeah, it's all good. And you guys for putting the broadcast on.
Always good. Thank you so much, Ruben. Have a great night, mate, and I'm sure we'll speak to you in the very near future.
Yeah, cheers.
Ruben Phelps there for SRM. And finally, tonight for DPR, taking victory. It is the 41. It's Mr. Andrew Dyson. So welcome back to the booth, mate. Congratulations on victory here at the Roval, as well as taking out the fastest lap and, of course, pole position. A clean sweep here tonight.
Thanks, boys. Good one. How you going?
Yeah, good. It's we had some good racing in that one. We saw some great action going on. We saw yourself up at the front trying to challenge yourself with a few fastest laps, having a few close calls towards the wall as well.
I did, yeah. I tried going pretty quick at a few times. So when the tyres were good and I came out the pits, I tried to go a bit quick, and then at the end of the race I tried as well, but I wasn't really there. So, but yeah, I saw there was a fair bit of racing going on around, and Steve was keeping us up to date. He can't race at the moment; he's not feeling too great, but Yeah, you said there was a few battles happening. He was keeping us up to date, so sounds like a good one to watch back.
Absolutely. Well, your teammate Christopher Islands has got all the other teammates on his side now. So unfortunately, you've fallen out of the favourite books of Ryan Jones and Morley. So they're cheering him on now.
Yeah.
But it was a really strong night from you all tonight, as we expect to see. Look, it is a road course, and we know how good you are, especially at a place like the Roval. You just have such good car control on these places. And there were a few times we were watching you just got so much confidence of taking it to the edge of the track. You know, obviously there's a lot of experience in that one, but the car control, you just always have that nice little knack here.
Yeah, well, I like the track, so that helps. I know I say that every time I like a track, it does, but it does genuinely help. You get a bit more into it when you like something. Done a lot of racing here too. Done a lot of supercar racing, MX5s. Like I think everyone, if you come up through the ranks, there's a lot of MX5 racing here. So, yeah, this track pops up a lot in that. You get a lot of laps around here because of that sort of stuff, and get close to the walls. It's ultra competitive. Got to get close to the walls, use up all the track, smash it over the curbs, all those things. So helps a lot. All those little bits and pieces.
Absolutely, and we were talking a little bit before. These cars, but you can get the curbs all right in them, but they're not quite as forgiving as some other series. And every time you just sort of have that nice little run over the curbs, you always look so settled. When we look at some other cars, they tend to be a little bit more. Just have a little bit more of a struggling moment when they get back on their feet, but you always seem to be able to get the car landed nicely.
Yeah, not always. I mean, there is like a certain sort of, I suppose, technique to throwing the car over the curbs, and if you're not doing it quite right, the car can land a bit awkwardly, and that can make things get a bit wobbly. Or if you've got a little bit too much throttle percentage on, or no throttle percentage as well, can sort of make it trip over itself. Or if you're on the brake over the curbs, if the car's got a particular sort of attitude, it can upset it as well. So there's all sorts of things you sort of have in your toolbox when you're attacking the curves. But yeah, this car is super awkward over them. It's not made for it because they're so stiff. They just do not like going over the curbs. They particularly do not like landing on 3 or 2 wheels. You've got to try to send it, or just don't send it at all, is the feeling I've sort of got from racing here tonight and other tracks and things. So yeah, it's interesting. But I guess that's, if anyone wants some advice, just go out and practice full sending it until you work it out and try not to get off tracks, and then you're good to go.
This is what we want to hear, because we're stitching together. Every time you give a little bit of advice, we're making a book out of it. So that's the plan. We're going to get some money out of you from this season, Dice. So look, a really strong race tonight as well. Congratulations here tonight. And obviously heading back to the Ovals next time out, I think we're at Vegas. So how are you feeling heading into the next round?
Vegas was a good one at the start of the season. I was pretty much nowhere the whole race early on because I didn't make any sort of setup changes or anything like that. And I was adamant that I wasn't going to make setup changes and all this sort of garbage at the start of the year. And then we got to the end of the race, and already 3/4 of the way through the race, I knew that no changes was not the way to go. I had to follow my pride and realize that we had to throw some changes at the car. So I threw some changes at it for the end of the race and had a little battle there with Neil at the end and came out with a dub. So we're looking pretty good for that one. But it is oval racing. Anything can happen. So we just got to get out there, stay out of trouble, do the best we can. If it wins there, we'll grab it. If not, well, just got to do the best we can.
Absolutely. Look, good luck for next time out. Congratulations here tonight. Now, before I let you go, the usual thing, the love, the shout out, sponsors, people in general, go for it, Dice, so you've earned it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, thanks to you guys for putting it all together. Thanks. I think Raymond had a bit of a meh earlier, but we got there in the end. We got it sorted. So thanks to everyone for putting in some effort and getting the races together each week. Appreciate that. Broadcast, of course, it's really late for Matt at the moment, so appreciate that. Hopefully the times get a bit better soon. And thanks to everyone who came out for a race. Appreciate that. Oh, and quick one, Sim Riggs, South Wales, all those cool people that get behind us. Love your work.
Yeah, the main ones, the important ones, of course. You've got to give them a shout out. Look,
they're always there. They're always there.
They get their money's worth out of you. That's the main thing. Congratulations tonight, Daiso. I'm sure we'll see you back on the podium in the near future. But until then, have a good night, mate.
Thanks, guys.
Andrew Dyson there for DPR, taking the win here tonight at the Roval. Well, that's us done and dusted for tonight's action, and done and dusted for the week as well, I think.
Yep, nothing this week now again.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, It's been, we've had a couple of weeks off and it's thrown me completely out not having things to say. So we'll be back with you next Thursday, and well, things will start kicking back up as well after next week as well, after Bathurst and all the long weekends. But a big thank you tonight, of course, to Mr. Matt Hunter and Mark Johansson for joining me up here in the booth. I was ANZCAR Wilkinson with you. We're going to wish you a good night, and we'll see you back here next Thursday for Las Vegas for the next stage of the playoffs. Good night, all.